You know the story, a tale that cities the world over have come across. Trams and streetcars were the lay of the land, then in one fell swoop, they were no more. While some have never replaced them, some have turned to buses, some tried more modern tramway design, and others have had more innovative solutions to preserve their old lines. Here in Lisbon, Portugal, the legacy system is still going strong. At least partly. Let's go for a ride.
Bem-vindo, welcome to Lisbon. We're gonna go check out a ton of transit. We got trams, metros, commuter trains, but we're starting with a funicular, which I need to hurry before I miss.
We're starting off this video aboard the Gloria funicular. Despite being on the Atlantic coast, Lisbon is a rather hilly city, so funiculars were quite an important part of the city's fabric, to carry goods and people up and down. Not all of them are still around today, but they still run just as they were when they were first electrified over 100 years ago. Even for the 3 funiculars that still run today, the low frequency and slow speed often means that you'll see people walking up and down them, parallel to the tracks. That said, this is still a rather enjoyable ride, and while it is rather bumpy and will set you back €4, the latter won't be the case if you have a pass. The operators of all the trams, funiculars, and buses here, but not the metro, are Caris, and in many ways they remind me of a transit agency I'm very familiar with, the SFMTA, in that they run buses, heritage streetcars, and modern light rail. Though while San Francisco's streetcars are often treated as just being a thing for tourists, Lisbon's legacy trams, as we'll see shortly, remain vital.
Alright, here we are at the top. We've just ridden the Gloria funicular. It's actually my first ever time riding a funicular railway of any sort.
Right up here in Bairro Alto, or the Upper District, a set of tram tracks greeted me, and I headed down the street towards the next stop.
I'm gonna try and get on a tram. Okay, I think I've actually found a tram stop at last here for the 24 that we just saw. Everyone told me that the 28 is the popular tram, but to avoid it, it does get crowded, is my understanding, and it seems like there's still Christmas decorations up.
These right here are the real deal. A cultural icon of the city, Lisbon's trams have been around for the best part of 150 years, from their beginnings as horse-drawn carriages to their eventual electrification just at the beginning of the 20th century. Interestingly, so significant was the growth of streetcars in American cities at this time that Lisbon even named their own vehicles Americanos. For what it's worth, the term used today is eléctricos. I'm sure you can figure out what that means. Anyway, let's get on board Tram 24. These famous yellow cars, now known as remodelados, got new parts in the 1990s, but they've been running for much longer since. Now, it will be easy to paint Lisbon's transit in the mid-20th century in the same way as the American cities it was originally inspired by. Tram lines ripped out, replaced by buses, this new transit mode that will solve all our problems. However, that's just not the story at all. While buses were definitely more versatile in the classic high-floor trams and better for accessibility, there were also some streets that they couldn't quite fit in, and larger articulated trams wouldn't work either. So a select few of the tram lines remained with their classic rolling stock, and we're all really grateful for that. In many ways, it was the metro, not the buses, that superseded the trams. The original metro build-out was directly underneath some of the former tram lines, and it got so much momentum that lines further out would close too, even in places that the metro wasn't anywhere close to reaching at the time. Throughout all these tram rides, there's been one constant that I can't possibly ignore. Cars, everywhere. This is especially a problem in super narrow streets that the lines like the 24 and 28 are known for. And I'm sure there have been countless occasions where trams have gotten blocked for ages by someone who didn't park properly, or just a lot of traffic. When I arrived in the country, Lisbon Airport was littered with Uber ads, highlighting all the places that you can go with an Uber, which included tons of places that are trivially easy to get to by transit. It all makes me wonder what the city's priorities are, as while there was a trial to make downtown car-free 2 years ago, it appears that nothing has progressed since then.
All right, this is Ratu. I think that's how you say it. I just rode 24 a little bit. It's not quite the 28, but it still had that same sort of vibe of nice narrow streets, very tight spaces. But yeah, there is actually one tram line that still exists in Lisbon that actually uses more modern articulated trams, which is the 15. So cut to me riding that.
And here is Tram 15, home to brand new articulated Café Urbos 3 sets with doors on only one side. While not a new route in and of itself, the extra capacity would be needed to cope with growing tourist numbers in an area full of notable attractions and little access from other transit modes. And unlike the other lines, they could actually fit these bigger trains without issues. Here at the beginning of the line, amidst the pouring rain, everyone rushed to get a seat. Now, the first articulated vehicles came from Siemens in 1995, but they've gradually been replaced with the CAF sets, on a vehicle whose Wikipedia page has a subheading called Design Flaws. It's not a good look. Oh well, at least they look good, and it's not Lisbons that have had issues. Anyway, we're skirting past Cais do Sodré, the beginning of the Cascais line that will take you to Lisbon's iconic beach town on the Atlantic. You can just about make out a train leaving the station, but don't worry, you'll get to see the trains in much better quality in a future video. Actually, I'm in a good mood today. Here's a glimpse. The trams on line 15 run more frequently than the other lines that still use traditional rolling stock, with peak hour frequencies up to every 8 or 9 minutes. So with the crowds on tram 15 and the roughly parallel 728 bus, what can be done? Well, a contract has been signed to extend the red line of the metro into this area, but it won't go all the way to Belém, which would be an absolute game changer if it did. There's also plans for 2 brand new tramways using more modern design practices, and it's hoped that the gap between them would be covered by extending the 15 to Santa Apollonia, which is another major railway station in the city alongside Cais do Sodré, which currently have no direct links between them. To get between them now, you'd have to take the metro and transfer at Baixa, which is a bit of an inconvenience and also prevents any through running of these services. There are other reasons like electrification, but that's a matter for a future video on Lisbon's suburban rail. So there you have it, that's a quick glimpse into Lisbon's tramways, funiculars, and modern vehicles. But we're not done yet.
I think we ain't done yet.
So it actually turns out there's one more tram or sort of thing that's part of the tramway, and it's this right here. This is a literal elevator, and they consider it transit, the Santa Justa lift. I'm gonna try and figure out how to ride this thing, but it is a tram or an elevator that's on a transit map. I was not expecting that, but yeah, cut to some narration about what this thing actually is.
So here we are then, going up this elevator that was first opened in 1900 to get you up to Carmo Square, which was pretty hard to get to from the main downtown. Funiculars wouldn't have worked either, it's just far too steep. Eventually, once Caris was formed, they acquired the rights to operate the elevator, and it's been part of the numbering system, numbered 54, ever since. At the top in Carmo Square, you'll have access to plenty of views, a small little cafe, and the square itself.
All right, so here we are. This is a little outpost here at Carmo Square, the top of the Santa Justa lift, and there is the lift. But yeah, that is the final piece of the puzzle in the Lisbon urban electric tramish things. Yeah, I like that. Urban electric tramish things. That is it. We've seen all of them, or as many as I think are interesting. But yeah, that's probably the first video you're going to see of the Lisbon tour, but we've got plenty more in terms of things to look at in transit, and so you should get excited.